Oh, yeah. You gotta go to the full one.
Good morning, everyone. Like to call the May 21st, 2025 Occupancy Tax Coordination Committee to order. Need a motion to approve the April 21st Tax Committee meeting. And that's motion made by Supervisor Runyon, seconded by Supervisor Gilligan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Privilege of the floor and public comment. We have one action agenda. This is the authorization to amend the online version of the occupancy tax grant application for convention, trade shows, and events. This came out of the April 21st OCTAX committee meeting. Supervisor, these are recommendations from updates to the new online OCTAX grant application.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Paul, you want to explain a little more than that, or coming from the last meeting and
Yeah, not many.
straightforward?
The changes are pretty simple. In this application, we're not requiring the applicants, if they've received OCTAX dollars in the past, to appear before the committee. You all remember the 40 so people that appeared. So only those that are applying for new events or those who are applying for more than the 50,000 will be required to come before the committee. So it should be short and sweet. That's about it for that one.
But they'll still have a review process.
Yeah, supervisors will review all the applications.
Good. Need a motion to approve that resolution? Motion made by Supervisor Etu, seconded by Supervisor Gilligan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Have 5 discussion items today. The first one, and over to Paul's 2026 OCTAX Municipal Supplemental Application Revision Recommendations based on supervisor input from 2025 application period.
Right, so very little changed here. This is the municipal supplemental application, kind of a partnership between the county and the municipality. Maybe a municipality may come up short with its own revenues it gets. And so this application was designed to supplement that. What we're gonna ask this year is that only municipalities apply for these funds. It's a fairly limited line item, so we want to just keep it in the hands of municipalities. Nobody outside of that would be asked to apply.
So that will, if that's a change, I'll move forward. Resolution next meeting.
And actually, that is no
Yeah,
change.
right,
All it is
no
is
change,
just
just
following the
following the
regulations.
yeah.
We've kind of pulled out of those.
Following what's there
That
now.
what's there, and so it's also being mindful that, we also have some new committee members. The ability to review and see where this is. And if you have any comments, changes, updates, if we could review them now, and if you need more time, we can definitely do that, but. This is just so that we can then get the application process going. So it's just really, last time we went through the events, we reviewed that, made some updates. We did not personally have any updates to this. But if the committee does, great, and we'll go through the process. If not, there's no need to make any resolution if there are no changes.
Yeah, and the point is this for municipal funding, not an agency, for example, or, okay.
Correct.
Questions? We'll move on. Tourism Director report.
So my report is very short and sweet, page 16, on the bottom there. And this is as of March 31st. And so I want to make sure that you're aware that that is March 31st numbers. And so if we look at the beginning balance of 3.5 million, 19 on the bottom.
16.
Or 16, my apologies. And they're front and back, so it's not that far in.
Oh, okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
Excellent. So looking at the beginning balance of 3.5, minimum reserves, we take out 1.5, that leaves us with about $2 million. Then we do a 3-month revenue projection. And do know we're still in our slow season, so April, May, and June will be low. June's gonna be a little bit higher. That total for a 3-month revenue projection is $900,000. 3-month expenditure projection, remember, this month, probably any day now, each of the municipalities will receive their remaining 25%. So April, May, and June 3-month expenditures, $2.9 million. We subtract the revenue from the expenditures, and that brings us to negative $2 million. We subtract that out from what our minimum reserve, what our cash on hand is, and we're left with an occupancy tax available balance of negative 3 million, just shy of a negative $3 million.
3 million or 3,000?
3,000, sorry. I was like,
Sound very good.
just make sure you're all listening.
Explain to the team.
Thank you for all listening. I was just seeing you which is norm about this year. Because of the large expenditures that go out in the low. And so that's why I get a little nervous in the first quarter when we say, let's give out this money and that money. We need to make sure that we've got the dollars. And thank you for supporting that, because we're doing pretty good. That's good. Yeah,
Good job. Thank you.
you sure?
Next, Christine Nunn, Treasury Report from our treasurer.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
This is in your packet. And this is as of 5/12. Again, the top is total tax collection, so motels, hotels, resorts, and short-term rentals combined. So overall, we're down 2%. If you look down a little bit lower, the hotel and motel collections, you'll see it's down 5% for 5/12/25, comparatively to last year. STRs are in fact up 5%. So when you look at this kind of holistically, you know, as hotels, motels, and resorts make up 70% of our short-term, of our tax balance, when you get a negative, 5% in their occupancy tax receipts, it's obviously going to impact the total occupancy a little bit more. So, when coupled with the 5% increase in the smaller STR collection, which makes up obviously 30%, equates to an overall 2% total OCC tax collection. Still a little early to talk about trends, but that's where we are now. Just a quick update, with the New York State tax law. Again, we're expecting collections to actually increase, because we're hoping that people who have maybe been flying under the radar screen, or maybe out on the platforms and not necessarily collecting occupancy tax, that, there's more regulations now, so they'll be complying hopefully with New York State and with the county. Right now, we are putting out all kinds of publications on the website. We're taking an enormous amount of phone calls. There's a lot of confusion. Chairman Garrity's been getting some direct requests. So we're reaching out to everybody. We're taking the time to talk to folks. But the New York State sales tax, we really can't do anything with that. New York State, every STR owner needs to, every hotel, motel, everybody that's got that has a short-term rental with this change has to work with New York State in order to figure out how to get their application for a New York State sales tax and then pay the state directly. So there's lots of confusions, but we're working through it. And then just lastly, Don Lehman helped us out and got a press release out today that I think is in the Post-Star. I think we are on the Channel 13 and also the Sun. We were also in the Mirror. Sometimes I guess now I appreciate that sometimes things are not so accurate when people report them. But again, we have a lot of things out on the website and we're doing our best to keep everybody informed and get everybody compliant. Good.
Very good.
Any
Thank
questions?
you.
Thank you.
Supervisor, you too?
I had a question for Heather, Chairman. The available balance, is that take into account any part of the 2.5 million approved for the Johnsburg Sewer project? Is it taken into account 250,000?
No, this is cash on hand. So this is actually,
Oh, okay.
if the world stopped today.
Yep.
That's what it will be if we paid out everything and we brought in everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is more of a guide when we're making decisions financially, if it needed to go through today.
Thank you.
Yeah. But it's not based on budget.
Supervisor, Patrick?
When I see minimum reserves here, 0.5 million, is that something that we do on a yearly basis? Or is that something that we always just want to have 1.5 million in total in reserves for that, for your budget?
Is part of the resolution, was it, and keep me if I'm honest, and I apologize, I'm gonna put you on the spot, but it's either part of it's not part of the law, but it's part of a resolution that was passed, correct?
So it was a resolution that upped it 1 million to 1.5 million. I believe that was 2 years ago. And the real design for this is it helps with the cash flow. Because there's a lag in the occupancy tax that comes in. So, but the expenses that we want to use occupancy tax for starts at the first of the year, the first of the budget year. But there's a lag in the collections. So this 1.5 million that the treasurer keeps in revenue, again, it used to be 1 million, they upped it to 1.5 just because they thought they were dipping in a little too close to the reserve, but it's primarily just to control cash flow and enable them to pay for the things they need to pay for early on in the year.
Thank you, I couldn't remember the law versus the resolution, there's been some.
Supervisor
Just
Patrick?
a follow-up question then. So essentially, it will never accumulate past the 1.5 million is the goal. It'll fluctuate. It'll go down to 1 million or 900,000 and then get replenished when revenue comes in. Thank you.
Questions? We have a quarterly presentation from Jesse Jackson of Lake George TV.
46. It's the last presentation in your packet, page 46.
Obviously, I'm not Jesse. So, thank you for having us here to give you a quarterly update on our progress in promoting tourism in the area. I'm gonna talk a little bit about process and results, and then where our users are coming from, marketing efforts and plans this quarter, significant observations, and then leave a few minutes for questions. So, with that, you can go to the first slide. So with, if you've seen our presentations before, a year or two update or just a recaps, you know that I tend to take sort of a sales funnel approach, looking at starting at the top of the funnel, the total reach, how many consumers did we expose to the things to see and do and places to stay in Warren County. And this quarter over last year, we had a 211% growth in our consumer reach. We reached almost 250,000 consumers. So significant growth there. And you know that exposure is sort of the starting point of that sales funnel that I talked about. That significant growth, number of consumers reached, also led to a significant growth in views of the platform. So if you go to the next slide, so this is where
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it says confidential on the bottom. This is an open meeting,
Yeah.
so if this needs to be confidential, I suggest you might want to consider going into executive session.
we don't feel the need to do that.
It's already on the website.
Yeah, it's already on the way.
We have no.
It says confidential. All right, sorry to interrupt.
No. Good
Well,
catch.
we prefer Essex County don't get it, but
I'm gonna be able to stop anything here.
aside from that. So that exposure led to a significant growth in the number of visitors. So these are people that are actually coming to the platform. So they saw something about, I think, George TV or Warren County through our marketing efforts. And as a result, went to the platform to look at content. So we saw an 83% growth in visitor views. We went from 50,000 last year to 85,000 this year. So that exposure leads to, you know, interest and engagement. And then they go to the platform and start to explore the content. So if we go to the next slide, you can see what the Yeah.
Courtney,
Sure.
in February, it's, is that correct? Because it's lower than the other bars.
You're talking about visitor views in February?
On page 40, yeah, visitor views in February. I'm just thinking, yeah, it could be 15 now that I'm looking at it, you could do what I do sometimes, accidentally hit another button. Just want to make sure.
So, but your question was what?
So if you look on that chart there.
Yeah.
It says 154%.
Yep.
But then you look at March report and it says 22%, but that line is lower. What
Yes.
is correct?
Yes. Yeah, so in other words, in February, we had 154% growth over the prior February. And
Oh,
in
these are
March,
increases, thank you.
yeah, March, yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
versus
This is the
year
increase
ago.
over the prior year. Yep,
Okay.
thank you for that question. So if you go to the next slide, the consumer engagement. So this is the amount of time that consumers are spending on the platform, using it as a gateway to find out what to see, what to do, and where to stay in the Warren County, Lake George area. And there our increase was over 1,000%. Went from 50,000 to 600,000 seconds of engagement from consumers actually interacting with the content, learning about the food and seeing in this area through Lake George TV. For us, ultimately, sort of where the rubber hits the road, as I said in our year 2 recap, is what kind of traffic are we driving? What kind of business are we driving to the businesses themselves? So if you go to the next slide, you can see that our growth in click-throughs to business from the content to the actual businesses, events and attractions grew 432% prior compared to last year. And so that's around 25,000 just for the quarter. And in our year 2 recap, what we shared with you is that for last year, we had a total of 40,000 click-throughs to the businesses. So just in this quarter alone, we had 25,000 compared to 40,000 for all of last year. So we're seeing very significant growth in terms of consumers using this as a way to reach businesses and be able to, make a reservation or order tickets or get hours, directions, whatever. I know the question is always, well, can we actually track conversions? Unfortunately, businesses can't do that for us. But that's why we shared things like in our year 2 recap, that page of testimonials that we have from businesses. We're continuing to get that kind of feedback from businesses. So where are they from? That's the next thing I want to talk about. If you go to this slide, you'll see essentially vast majority are coming from the 3-hour radius. You see New York, so Metro New York area predominantly, but also as far south as Ulster and Greene County, as far up as Albany, Schenectady, Troy, all the way up to St. Lawrence and Franklin County, as far out as Niagara and Genesee County. So basically that 3-hour, give or take, 45 minutes radius from Warren County itself.
Sure.
So the next slide is, yeah, somebody's question.
Is that from,
Yeah.
how did you get that data? You and I sat and Jesse for a couple hours and talked about this. Was it, you said you were gonna try to pursue credit card data or something like that?
Nope, our platform actually tracks the IP address
Oh, it
of our
does.
visitors. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, so we're able to see where they're coming from. If you go to the next slide, some of the marketing efforts and plans, in 2024, I just want to step back for a second. 2024, we did 4 major shoulder season campaigns. We did our spring wine take flight series, our Grape Escape one for the Adirondack Wine and Food Festival. We did a fall one, we did a winter one. And you can see some of the partners that we involved, some of the tourism entities that we involved in doing those marketing campaigns. We did 4 giveaways. We had over 400,000 views, 250,000 plus video plays, and we were able to share over 5,000 targeted consumers and their data with those partners. Based on that success, go to the next slide, you'll see that this year we're planning to do 6 campaigns. We've added 2 more. Most of our partners from last year wanted to re-engage. They were very happy with the results. They wanted to be part of campaigns again this year. So we had so much demand that we decided to add a couple as well. And something that I want to mention about that is that the shoulder season campaigns obviously are critical, but we also want to expand the scope of the type of visitors and the range within the county that we're trying to attract people to. So I'll use Starry Night as an example. Warrensburg RV Park wanted to be part of this. So we're going to do that campaign is going to be targeted towards campers because the grand prize there is you get a free stay at Warrensburg RV Park. So we're trying to move the needle not only in terms of the type of visitors that we're speaking to, but also the places in the county that we're addressing as well. So it's being the type of visitor, trying to cover the whole county essentially. If you switch to the next one, we just wrapped up spring take flight. We had 4 returning partners, Leaf Air Trekker, Adirondack Pub, and High Peaks Distilling. We added 2 new ones this year, Lizzie Keys and Adirondack Extreme. Love this idea, wanted to be part of it. Particularly Adirondack Extreme. They don't get a lot of people coming now to do their zip lines and things like that. So this was extra publicity for them. It's free. They get a lot of attention. So they wanted to be part of that as well. And if you go to the next page, you'll see that campaign's been very successful. We just concluded this one. We had over 130,000 views from consumers. The majority of the folks fell into the 45 to 75 range, with the biggest bump being in the 55 to 64 range. So again, kind of in that, sweet spot of who we're trying to target for the decision makers of vacations up here. And again, also in terms of the geo, it's mostly folks within that 3-hour radius of Warren County. And this year, this campaign is over. We doubled the number of entrants that we had last year. And we just launched the second campaign of the year, which is the Grape Escape. That's the Adirondack Wine and Food Festival. We have numerous partners for that one. And we are halfway through that one. We've already exceeded the number of entries from last year, and have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 100,000 consumer views on that one already. So if you go to the next page, thank you. So significant observations. I compared last year's Take Flight to this year's Take Flight, and I just kind of wanted to point something out here that I found interesting, which is that if you look at the pie chart, last year for Take Flight, Quebec was in the top 5 of where people were coming from to enter that sweepstakes, and presumably their interest level in coming to this area. And in the top 10, we had Ontario. It's kind of a small slice, but if you have the thing in front of you, you can see where it is. This year, Quebec was only in the top 10. It didn't even make the top 5. It was only in the top 10, and it barely made the top 10. And Ontario's completely absent. So, one of the things we're going to be keeping our eye on is Canadian visitation. I understand if you look at the numbers, it may not be a huge share of visitation in Warren County, but it certainly is nonetheless a slice. And for some businesses, it can be very significant. I've had several conversations with Gary Thornquist, for example, who I think most people know. And if I remember correctly, he told me last time that we were here that 20% of their visitors come from Canada, and they have virtually none this year. They are down like 90%. That's big for a business like that. They can't afford that. So we're going to be keeping our eye on this, trying to see what we can do maybe to try to push the needle on that. As well as economic conditions, and it's not just political climate, it's also economic conditions, imbalance in the exchange rate, things like that certainly play into that. In conclusion, we are going to be just focused on continuous process improvement. That's kind of our motto, is always trying to do everything that we do better, bigger, get more attention, drive more people to the businesses, and eventually, hopefully, make our tracking better too. So, any questions? No?
Questions?
Yes.
Supervisor Runyon?
Well, it does look like Pennsylvania and Vermont both drastically increased.
Yes, they did. Yep. Yeah, we did see some increases in some interesting places. In fact, over the quarter, to see a place like Illinois make it in there was extremely interesting to me. I think, I'm speculating here, I don't know this for sure, but Take Flight, we also saw that get off to a very slow start. And I think that one of the things that might have played into that was people not wanting to get on planes.
Oh.
It's a 1-hour scenic flight in a Cessna over Lake George, but let's face it, with what happened at Reagan, with what's going on at Newark and places like that, people I think are a little skittish about getting on a plane. And if you look at things like the Tourism and Hospitality Council, they're saying that we're definitely seeing a decrease in international travel across the board, but you are seeing an increase in domestic travel. So that may be people who are saying, hey, we'll take a drive. Long drive, but we'll take the drive. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Yes.
Ed, when you look at viewer locations,
Yes.
and New York is such a big part of that, is
Yeah.
there another level of detail? Is it possible to break it down into region or not?
Yes,
There is,
Yep.
okay.
yep. I will send that to the committee.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
During public comment, could I make a?
I think I could open it up now, can I? Yeah. Supervisor Driscoll?
I need to come to more OCTAX meetings. This is very informative and congratulations to the county and to you guys. Those numbers are just out of this world. But I guess my question is, we're looking at 200% to 1100%. In year 3, 4, whenever, do you see those numbers kind of plateauing? And you're always looking for increase, and I know, I'm sure you'll receive that, but is there a time when the numbers will plateau as far as the percentage of increase?
You know, the way I look at it is the way I've always looked at it, which is that, you know, if we give it everything that we have.
Jesse? I'm
Yes.
sorry, please go to the podium.
Okay.
Thank you.
It happens a lot when I do this. You know, the way we've looked at this from the very beginning is that our ability to market, not advertise Warren County, but our ability to market Warren County is unique. So what we do all the time is we always say to each other, don't rest. Let's just figure out what we can do to keep attracting people to us in what we hope is our unique selling proposition. That's why we do these marketing campaigns. When we were first approved to do this project, we didn't even know that we were going to go down this path. The second we thought about it, which has a lot to do with our experience of talent, to be honest, we thought if we start these marketing campaigns, we're not setting a ceiling. We don't know how they're going to react or what they're going to react to. And I'm talking about the consumer, right? We can pat ourselves on the head all day. It's not about us, it's about them. And what we found is that they immediately responded. And by immediately responding to these campaigns, that triggered us to say, how clever can we be with this? On the ideation side, on the creative side, how smart can we be on the marketing side? So we're kind of surprised by the results ourselves, but if that's what the consumer is responding to, and it's a real effective way for us to attract them in a unique way, not an advertising way, but a marketing way, and tie in our partners, all the businesses in Warren County, it's kind of limitless, we think, to where we can go with this. How long they'll be interested in it, I can only tell you from being in the business for 40-something years, they never tire of something that entertains them and something that they think that they might find curious or interesting about us. One final point on that is that then that differentiates us from Cape Cod, from the Jersey Shore, from wherever.
Yeah.
You know, the piece of the puzzle will vary, but I don't see a ceiling, not yet. And when we do, I can tell you that we've got our eye on what's next.
In future years, I might respectfully suggest testimonials. I'm a storyteller, and I would much rather read about both the businesses as well as the consumers of those opportunities,
You know,
rather
we
than
did-
the analytics, the numbers, and all that type of stuff. That really resonates to
We'll
me.
send you, we have
Yeah.
quite a list of testimonies.
I'm sure you do. That,
And,
you know,
pretty impressive what people
Yeah.
are saying to us.
great.
You know, what Ed said about the take flight thing, about people with airplanes. Well, you know, we didn't know that, it wasn't a problem last year. There weren't all of these mishaps and, you know, controllers and delayed flights and near misses in the air. But we did have somebody contact us and said, love to enter this thing, but you know, we just don't really we don't want to fly. So we thought to ourselves, oh, okay. You know, you don't know, but you adapt as you go. And quite honestly, you know, our initial goal with these marketing campaigns was something that I think Gene said to me, or somebody said to me early on, you know, it's August, they're on the streets. They're in our county in August. What's going on March, April? What's going on October, November? So our marketing campaigns were originally just aimed right at those shoulder seasons. And it turned out to be pretty damn successful. What we're spotting now is that we can do smaller marketing campaigns even during the heightened seasons. We're looking at something now that's aimed pretty much at people that like to do camping. We're doing something, we've got a concept that we're playing around with called Under the Stars. So, you know, the ideas will never stop with us. That's how we're driven. That's our background. That's what we do. And we're just going to keep watching this thing and see what the consumer's reacting to. And when they react, we go at it. So our goal is to continue to find holes in the year schedule, 365, winter included, that we can prompt these people. We also know that from the way that they're reacting, that we're developing a list of people that we can go back to all the time. You enjoy that, you probably love this. Classic marketing. So at any rate,
Thanks, Jesse.
thanks.
Yeah. 1 second, Supervisor.
Fine, that's fine.
Okay, what we're gonna, Supervisor Wild?
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to mention something that maybe some of the people on this committee don't understand. A few years ago, we took some risks on a couple of projects. This is one of them. We didn't know if this is gonna work or not. I think the numbers show that it has. So it's okay for us to take some risks going in the future. I think that's what we need to do to change what's going on with our tourism economy, to expand it. But this is one of the things that I'm proud of having a chance to help influence. And I think it's a great job that these guys have been done. So thank you.
Thank you. You, Supervisor Molino?
I think you skipped Sam Luciano.
No, well, I switched them.
Oh, shit, okay.
Paul, do you want?
Oh, yeah, Jesse, those numbers are incredible. I was just curious, how do you guys deliver these marketing campaigns?
Oh, let me go.
Is it paid social, paid
Yeah,
media?
Yeah, paid social, both, through, boosting campaigns, that kind of thing, but also through Google. And also by getting our partners to share these things as well, and then also email marketing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, those are the primary vehicles.
Beautiful.
Social, display and email.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Supervisor Patchett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, this isn't really, I guess it is a little directed at George TV, but it's more directed at all projects. So I guess my question is, what is, clearly I am understanding that the county, gives you a certain allotment a year in dollar value. But what does your revenue stream look like? And I guess what I'm thinking is, like, when we start getting to the point where people, like certain events, like I think the Balloon Festival, just as an example, I think they've delivered a very clear message that it's pretty much volunteer. They're doing tremendous amount for the area, bringing in business, and it's just a win-win. But when we're talking about, revenue, I think that when people are having applications, I'd like to see how much are we paying all the executives and the owners. I'd like to see what's being reinvested into the business, any dividends that are getting paid. It just seems like, it just seems like it's hard to get a true understanding of what the revenue source is, and at what point does an application become independent from the county OCTAX dollars. Surely we understand that if you're bringing in more OCTAX dollars to the county for businesses, that's bringing money to OCTAX, then it's a win-win. That if we're giving you 200 grand and we can establish that you're bringing 250 back into the pool of money, what a wonderful thing. But it would be nice to know what the salaries are, what what's going back into the company, and the bigger picture of things for any applicant that comes forward to the county. Not just, I know Lake George TV just spoke, but all these applications, I feel like that information should be at a minimum Board of Supervisor knowledge, and probably should be public knowledge. Do we have any of that information?
We have some of that info. Yeah, we do.
We ask salary info and stuff like that?
So it's part of projects, and not familiar with this one because this one's not within the application process of the events. And I want to say this was also prior to me, so there's been certain procedures that we've put into place since then. But we do ask every applicant to provide a overview of their budget. And so when they present the applications to us, they provide us with a budget of expenditures and revenue for sources. And then they come back in, and at the end of the when they're submitting their results, they also provide that. How in detail some of those are, it might not be as detailed out. We try to get them as detailed as we can. Right now, we don't require, like we say, we might have a general budget like salary and this and that, and it's just also based on that project or event. So I wouldn't necessarily say that if a entity is running an event, but also has other things, that's not the preview of what we're asking. We're asking within the event itself.
In that event, actually, salaries are not covered by occupancy tax. If an event organizer looks for reimbursement for salaries, it's not an eligible use of OCC tax dollars, so.
And
for
but it's
events.
included because it's part of
Part
the
of their
process
budget.
where we say part of the expenditures of eligibility and non-eligibility.
But if a company is coming to the county for OCC tax dollars and we're providing those dollars, regardless if they can, make the numbers work to where it's not going towards a salary, but we see that employees or executives are making 300 grand a year. I mean, at what point does the county just take a look at that and say, hey, you know what, you don't really need us anymore. You're independent and it makes sense for you to be independent.
As the event itself becomes profitable, I mean, when you look at the scoring, as an event becomes profitable, the scoring reflects that, so they can get less and less. Go ahead, going off track.
Yeah, I think we're confusing a contract with a company to provide a service versus an event that we fund through occupancy tax to provide an event, to conduct an event like the Balloon Festival, Americade, etc. We're under contract with this company to provide this service on behalf of the Office of Tourism to the county, like any other contracts that we do. We don't really get into that level of detail usually with contracts that we sign that are bid. People submit bids and we award a contract based on what we believe is a reasonable cost for providing that contract, I think. So this contract will come up for renewal at some point, I believe, or extension. And I don't know the specifics of that, but I just want to caution, we probably shouldn't confuse an event with a separate contract for a service. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It just still have my head working in the bigger picture of things in terms of what's that, like, I can't tell you what is the revenue source for any company, I mean, other than the county. What's the revenue source? I know you provide this service free of charge for most Warren County businesses, is the way I understand it, or isn't that true? It's a free service.
It's a free service to consumers and to businesses. The model that this was built on was actually a paid subscription model. And we had to go through quite a few hoops to try to figure out how to make this free to consumers. The basis in that thinking, of course, was always, why would somebody pay to find out why they should come here?
Jesse, please speak from the podium.
I'm sorry. Very good. You heard what I said, though.
So it's a subscription-based revenue stream.
No, it's not. What I'm saying is that the architecture for what we build, connected TV streaming service, has traditionally always been built on a paid subscription model, like Netflix, like Disney, like any of them, right? It's exactly that same model. We determined in working with the supervisors that we're not going to ask consumers to pay for the privilege of finding out whether they want to come here, that we want it free for them. And then at the time too, the supervisors, we said, it'd be really incredible if this could be free to the businesses in Warren County, no cost to them, because then we can form the kind of partnerships and the kind of things that we're actually demonstrating that we're doing at no cost to them, which of course is a great reflection on the Board of Supervisors, because they were saying to the businesses in Warren County, we're providing this to you, a business in Warren County, related to attracting visitors to our region free of charge. It's just a really very interesting concept and a very, as I think it's proving, successful formula. So did that answer your question?
Your only source of revenue is the county at
It's
this
the
point?
county, yes.
That answers my question.
Okay.
Supervisor Etu?
And it was a 3-year contract for $300,000. And if that's true, how many months are we into 36 months?
We end the first contract period in November, end of November, I think, or end of October.
I think the
And it's up for
contract's
renewal. There's a renewal clause in our contract.
So at the end of 3 years is this fall.
Yes, correct.
The contract's for 274.
Yeah, something like that.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jesse.
Sure. You know, just to John's point, which I think is important, and I mean, we know each other, Josh. The contractual agreements, just like your own business, any of your contractual agreements are different than if somebody comes in and pitches, hey, I need money for an event. You know, there's a lot of planning and organization for the kinds of things we do with the people that work for Ed and myself, and for the things, I think it was Paul that just asked us, how do you market yourself? Well, we've never come back to the Board of Supervisors to say, hey, we've got this idea, or we're going to do this social media campaign. We just do it, and that's part of the relationship building, which is maybe not answering your question directly, but when you run a business, you look for those opportunities, right? Yeah.
Jesse, when you make a video for somebody, you do it free of charge? I know our
We
business
don't
made our own video.
We don't get a dime. We know that there are
But
revenue
you're willing to
sources.
work with a business and make.
We will work with them however they want to work with us.
Yeah.
And what we've seen in the beginning, the businesses looked at us like, oh, well, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do here? And we were like, okay, so I mean, we're good at this. We can mentor these businesses, we can tell them where to go. And in some cases, we've made recommendations to them for people that we know that can shoot specific kinds of videos that they're looking to produce. But it's not a revenue stream for us. This thing was never built that way,
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Ron? Winter's Dream Report. Sam?
This is on page 19 of the packet.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of today is really to update the board and where we stand with Winter's Dream. Apologize for the delay. We're waiting for pieces of information to come in. So I'll walk you down through this. We did not want the media to get our report before the board. Media asked us many times throughout the winter. I got to give Kathy Dede a lot of credit. Or she put in the Chronicle, she should not put most of our conversation there, and I appreciate that. You might have seen Liz Bishop also called us. I gave her very limited information till we got in front of the board. So if you saw those media releases, again, our intentions were not to give anything out before we came to talk to you. Most of our coalition is not here today. Matter of fact, it's just myself and Gina. We have a pretty diverse, dynamic group. Christian Dutcher is very busy with Americade that launches on Monday. Sarah's out of town. Tom Lloyd is in San Francisco, etc. So all of them wish they could be with you today, but unfortunately, their schedules did not allow. Like Lake George TV that we support wholeheartedly. I provided you with a lot of data. The data we provided to you in that packet, I won't go over detail. That comes from Zartico. Zartico Mystery 2 has 4 data points they provide. One is credit card information. One is CoStar or Smith Travel. One is Verizon, their cell phone data. And the last one is credit cards. So there are 4 key points that provide all that data. Now, when we closed up Winter's Dream, we gave you a complete report of all the data that occurred on that during that winter. Why this is different is Gina was able to secure data that compares us to other counties, 5 other key counties. And I thought that was relevant that you see how we did that year and how we compared other counties, with maybe other demand generators. So I won't go over that with you unless you'd like to take key points on it. I want to update you on changes in our coalition. Some of you were not on the board when we first started. Go over that with you. I want to tell you about our relationship with Moment Factory, and then go over what we're working on. So let me start with the coalition. The coalition, there were 3 changes. There are 13 members on our coalition. Mike Mentor, who's the owner of the Nordic Hotel, also represents the Kenny family. He replaced Emily Frost, who is a member of the chamber. Penko Ivanov, he's the senior executive vice president for Aero Bank. He replaces Dave DeMarco, who's been very busy these days, was not able to make some of our meetings. And then Jessica Dara, she is the co-chair of the Winter Carnival. She replaces Vinny Cressito, who's busy doing other things these days. Well, the rest of the people are intact. The good news is we did not go away. We are not going away. We are committed to Warren County and the winter. Problems still exist. The winter, that November through April, it is the time period that we need revenue. I was at my own board meeting just the other day. We had an energy consultant. Energy costs are expected to go up 50% by 2028. That really surprised us a little bit. Cost of employees are going up, and the availability is very limited. The cost increases in the energy was cited because these data centers that are going up. If you do a Google search, it takes about the same amount of energy as 8 seconds on your laptop. If you do a GPT search, it's about the same amount of energy as 14 minutes on your laptop. So as more people go to AI and these data centers are used, the grid gets taxed, and certainly New York State is not ready for that at this point. So the energy cost will go up. That's important to know as we try to build this year-round business. It's very important that we solve the winter problem. Some key things that we did learn, page 6, I believe, is for a winter business to be successful, I'm not talking events, but business, there are 4 major things. The first thing is weather has to be taken out as an element. We thought we were insulated. We certainly were with snow, with warm weather that ice castles faced. The thing we faced was cold rain, 16 days out of 21 days we were open in December, and then throughout the rest of the winter. And we have a partial outside event, you have cold rain at night. Spectators are not more apt to come visit it. The other thing you need that ice castles had was a daytime component. Winter's Dream was a nighttime component. And if you start doing the pro formas on cost of these events, when you get into just show times at night, and then you take into factor what's called nautical twilight time, which is the time that the sun goes down. And as you move through November through February, you have less show times. Then you get squeezed for the amount of people that you can process through there. So if you have a daytime component, you're more apt to do better. The other thing is it has to be enticing across many different markets. It's got to attract that skier that can't go skiing but came up for the weekend because it's raining out. It's got to attract that Indian family that came home with 8 people that are just looking for cultural things to do. It's got to attract all those elements to be successful. And lastly, it's got to be backed by substantial marketing dollars, which Winter's Dream was. We spent about $500,000 marketing. You may ask yourself, what would fill that bill? Well, there are things, there's many actually. Think about casino gambling. You think about a freshwater aquarium. Think of things like that. If you want to build a bet that lasts that whole time period, that is things you can look forward to. And we'll have other ideas. The coalition's job is to keep presenting ideas to the county. What are we working on, and what happened to us? Well, we had a series of meetings throughout the winter. They're listed page 5. Critical one to know in those meeting schedules is April 2nd. That's when we terminated the contract with Moment Factory. And we exercised our right on 14.3, which is if we did not If we took a pause in the second year, did not start up the third year, the contract would self-terminate. We exercised that right, but we were careful to keep a very strong relationship with Moment Factory. We're a great company, we're a partner. But the cost of that show in the equipment and the marketing is where everything lies. So we were taking a pause because we were waiting on DRI money from New York State. But that application was submitted with the equipment in there that would have supported the show. Of course, I come to you this morning, and many of you know, this morning they released the DIR and DRI, and the money was approved for Lake George. So that kind of changes everything at this point. But we paused and we met with Moment Factory continuously and as a coalition to keep this project alive. We did not execute our 400,000 that was offered to us last year. You know, we paused on that. We did not take the whole 3 million, did not take 50,000 of that. So we're in the planning mode, and we looked at a number of things throughout the winter that might work. One thing that we had success on at the fort was ghost stories. We look at other areas, look at Salem, look at down south, Gettysburg. Ghost stories are popular year round. We have the infrastructure in place right now, and we own some assets from Winter's Dream that we could utilize. So we are exploring the ghost store arena, if you will, and that could be a year-round venture, and that way we'd be able to give the county back money as this thing goes along. We pause on that because we're still working with Moment Factory. There is a non-compete clause for 3 years, and that does not allow us to do an immersive light show. That's really the question: is what are they willing to allow us to do? And our statement to them is, we will come to you out of courtesy to tell you what we will do, but we will not ask for permission on things outside of the contract. Not a negative statement. We didn't leave any negative connotation with them. It's a very good relationship with them. We think in the future now with the DRI money, and there may be a future with Moment Factory. It just so happens that they're working on a project that's new for them that they haven't even released yet, called Ghost Stories. So they may have something that'll tie in with us down the road. We also, the coalition's been working with events. You know, this year we worked with the car show, and now it's a 4-day event in the county. We've started a couple new events that are small right now, but St. Patty's Day walk, it's a Super Bowl party, ice bars, etc. We'll continue to work with the event organizers and work with Winter Carnival, help them with volunteers. Your question on the payroll and stuff. The coalition is 100% volunteer, nonprofit, nobody takes any money. All of our efforts on all these business people that you saw on that slide is all complimentary. Their time, their energy. There's a lot of value in that during Winter's Dream that the county benefited from. Those people are not going away. None of us are going away. Their passion is there. They're committed to make this right. They're committed to do what's best for Warren County. Like I said, we're still in the planning stages. We have these assets that we will rent out, and then we can rent out. The goal of Winter's Dream was, as the years progressed, we would have bought the equipment. So that by the time we hit year 4 and 5, that major expense would have been gone, and that would have been clear profits. Fortunately, we did not get there. The equipment costs between $500,000 and $800,000 install and run every year. And that was a big number with the amount of tickets that we sold. So there, I'll stop and answer any questions that you might have. That's our update.
Supervisor, you too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When the idea that Winter's Dream wasn't coming back was published in the Chronicle recently, a lot of people made comments on Facebook like, where did the 3 million or the 2.95 million go? And I think I emailed with you and Tyler about this a little, and I know that you described that the coalition members put in a lot of their own private equity, a lot of different ways. But can you describe where some of that 2.95 is?
Yeah, basically 1.55 went right to Moment Factory for creative and rights of the show. The rest of it went into basically equipment that rental a year, and marketing. 500,000 went to marketing.
The chairlift was one of them, ADA compliance, things like that.
That was on the Ford.
It was.
Ford spent $1 million to host the show. We took it on the chin, but we were committed. We put in Ford expenditures were the lift, sidewalks, making the whole thing ADA compliant, which meant changing our entrances. That was all on our dime. None of that came out of the coalition with $3 million. A lot of misnumbers on that.
How far are you into the 3-year do not compete?
This is our first year. It'll be our first year. We don't think it's gonna be a problem though, because the things we're looking, we don't want to compete with them. We don't want a bad relationship with Moment Factory. Look at what they provided. They provided a cabin, which the kids threw snowballs at, and that was a very interactive, that's very specialized technology. We would certainly not take their score of music, that was very specialized. We would not take their storyline, that was specialized. We would go in another direction, where there are canned effects, if you will, that we could use. And we will consult with them and so they make sure we're definitely above board, because we think there's a future with them.
Any other questions? Supervisor Patchett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you just describe, I'm a little unfamiliar, what you said, 1.55 to Moment Factory, is that right? What does that all mean, Moment Factory?
Moment Factory is a company.
The what?
Moment Factory is a company out of Canada. They do very large scale productions like Disney, they're in Paris, they're in Memphis. They put together these Disney-esque, for lack of a better description, shows. The money is paid for their creator, their team, their technology, their research and development, and their development of the story. So not uncommon. If you want to solve the winter problem, you're going to spend some money. These shows are not cheap. The things that we need to do to fix the winter will not be cheap. You spent a lot of money on it. You did. It was a great risk. It was a great effort on your part to take that initiative. Otherwise, we would have died on the vine. And these things have to continue. You have to continue to spend this money on these new ideas, on these attractions. There's a lot of expenses coming up, like I mentioned, energy. There's a lot of challenges coming to the hotel industry and to the short-term vacation rentals. You'll see in that report. And the expectation out of the business owners out there is that you'll continue to be creative. You'll continue to work on getting business here, while the other counties that we're competing against are doing the same thing. So thank you for spending the money. You did the right thing.
Supervisor Patchett, one more. Yep.
So the 1.55 million is to design the show, and is that something that's like a one-time design?
Yes.
So essentially that can be used from year to year moving forward. That design that Moment Factory provided for the $1.55 million.
The show is intellectual property. They retain the rights if we don't continue with it.
Okay. And then
No, go ahead.
the other $1 million or ish was equipment rentals, that's something that has to be paid yearly, no matter what, if we want to continue in that way,
Unless we buy it.
unless you buy the equipment.
And the DRI just got equipment, 600,000 for the village.
So another follow-up question, is there money to continue, like, do we expect to see Winter's Dream this year? This winter?
Probably not. Probably not. I don't, this changes everything this morning. We'll go back to the think tank. If Winter's Dream could continue, by the time we get year 5 and the equipment's paid for, then you would have a show that would continue. And we actually were building on the show when we decided to execute that pause in the contract. We were improving the show, working with Moment Factory on a number of ideas to improve the show.
Supervisor Patchett?
So you said we're not going away. When does that mean you're coming back specifically?
The coalition's not going away. We're not coming back. We're here. We're here. We're meeting. As you saw on the schedule, we'll meet every month. We will continue to come up with ideas and try to work with Moment Factory and other companies on how to produce good ideas for the winter to generate revenue and bed tax money.
But there's nothing that's gonna actually come of the 3 million anymore. That money is spent, it's gone, and Winter's Dream is never coming back. Is that what you're saying?
I'll never say never on Winter's Dream, because again, we have some new revelations this morning. And the $3 million, understand, was never, we're gonna pay back, and our intention was to pay back right away, but there was never a time frame on that. So everything we're doing is to generate OCTAX dollars to pay you back. Is it gonna take 10 years, 5 years, 100 years? We have no idea. We're working toward it. We give you that promise. But understand where the OCTAX dollars come from, though. You look at the hotels, you look at the Fort Henry, the Marriott, the Holiday Inn. We spend a lot of money marketing besides what Heather does. to get guests up here. We kiss a lot of babies. We have 7,000 VIPs at the Fort William Henry. All that is to generate revenue, which generates tax dollars. So there's a lot of work that goes on besides what you do and what the county does out there at our properties to generate this money that was spent on that risk that you took. So understand that tax dollars.
I would just be remiss if I didn't just say that, you know, essentially what you're telling me is that we spent 1.55 million on a blueprint, a plan of how the technology should work when we bring somebody in to look at it. I would just think when there's a $3 million budget, you get together some of the greatest minds in the region and you come up with that plan that doesn't cost 1.55 million, and you try to show the people something that we think that, you know, understanding our region, that they want to see.
Fair enough. The committee was started by Mayor Blaze. He recognized that Ice Castles was probably not coming back. They had a very difficult year. He put all the top minds together to come up with a plan on February 8th. And we worked for 1 year solid meeting every month. We talked to a number of different companies, talked to a number of experts, including the board, on the expenditure, what was right or wrong. It wasn't a pie in the sky. We talked to all the industry experts to see if this was a viable show, and they all came back with, yes, it was, including the pro forma that we put together. So we consulted with everybody. You have some of the sharpest minds right now working on it, and that did work on the project. That's what the show cost. We did talk to other companies. We've talked to other companies recently outside of Moment Factory, make sure we're away from that model, and to see if there's anything we could resurrect. The ones we talked to before, we had a number of companies that made proposals to us. They were all $1 million plus. That's the cost of these shows. That's the cost to get a big attraction here.
I have nothing further.
Thank you. Other questions? Supervisor Etu?
You sold tens of thousands of tickets, right?
We did 28.
Yeah, it's been a while since, and a measurable amount of those people are not from here.
28,000. A lot of that is in
The multiplier effect, downstream effect of that, at hotels, including in Queensbury, Glens Falls, gas stations, etc., was substantial.
if you look at year over year, you look at the difference between restaurant expenditures and visitors, way down. If you look at the very first stat, most of our guests, or over 50% of them, came from New York City. The previous year was like 36. This past year was New York City. We saw a lot of those guests come back because of Winter's Dream. A lot of people were asking for those attractions. I forget, we had Winter's Realm also right next door. They sold 20+ thousand tickets as well.
Other questions? Yeah, I just want to say a couple of things. You know, when you look at this winter, I think we could all say we were down a little bit. I'm going to speak a little bit from the industry. Everything seemed to click this year. Good weather, you know, good snowfall. It's cold, the lake froze, but we were down a little. I mean, the point is, you know, good events create OCTAX. They might not look like a success on the big picture, but good events bring people in and create OCTAX. There were still 28,000 tickets sold. Maybe it missed the mark a little bit, but yeah, I'll leave it at that. I could go on a little bit, but I'll leave it right at that.
Yeah, just in closing, you know, thank you for your confidence, and thank you. Continue to ask all the hard questions. We'll continue to work for the county until we can't anymore.
Good job, Sam. Thank you. Questions? Pearls, none. Privilege of the floor and public comment. Motion to adjourn. Motion made by Supervisor Runyon, seconded by Supervisor Patchett. Favor?